Hello to listeners and watchers around the globe of all kinds, really around the country. But you'd actually be surprised there is a decently sized minority of international audience members. In Canada, there's a decent chunk, a couple of European countries, and even some of the Asian countries. So if you're listening internationally, shout out to you. And welcome back to another episode of Blue Blooded, your favorite college basketball podcast. I am your host, Ryan Hammer, of course. My GM of the podcast, Adam, will be on to help co-host the later segments of the Big 12 Conference Preview. That is what is on the agenda today. We will get into news and notes around the nation, and we will get into the home court advantage of the week. But the major piece and the majority, really, the chunk of the episode is going to be on the Big 12. Power rankings, talking about every single team in the conference, player awards, coaching awards, hot takes, etc., you name it. So without further ado, let's get rolling right into news and notes. News and notes around the nation. We will get into the scrimmages, but first, I want to talk about Tyon Grant-Foster. The GCU transfer who committed to Gonzaga to play this year was deemed ineligible. His eligibility waiver was denied by the NCAA to play for Gonzaga this season, and the country is in uproar, including myself. He has a very unique situation. Now, I'll go over the years for you to understand. His last 7 years of college basketball, 2018-19, he was the class of 2018 in high school. Let's just put it that way. He had 2 years of JUCO ball. He played 1 year at Kansas. Then after that, he was at DePaul, and he collapsed on the court in their first game, almost died, had a crazy heart condition, so he didn't play that year or the year after that, really, and then he played the last 2 years at GCU. So that's 2 years at JUCO, 1 year at Kansas, really 2 years off, and 2 years at GCU. I know what you're thinking. Like, sure, that's 5 years of him playing. He has like extra eligibility all around with COVID year and etc. But the JUCO thing is what kind of throws a wrench in, where JUCO years aren't free eligibility. I misspoke on Twitter actually about that, and I didn't phrase it properly at all. But they're not just free years of eligibility. You can't just play 2 JUCO years and then go play 4 after that. But it's really like a one-off thing where there was an instance a few years ago where a court kind of NCAA and court ruled for an extra year of eligibility for a JUCO player, and then they started rolling that over into all other athletes that play JUCO to have an extra year of eligibility. So that plus the heart condition and those years really not counting for his eligibility are why people are in uproar a little bit. To me, there's no reason that, one, he shouldn't be playing this year for Gonzaga, and two, there's no reason that they should be waiting until October 19th to kind of to give him a response and answer. I know that there is a way for him to play. They're going to put an injunction in or whatever. I'm not like a legal guru in this stuff, but they're going to put an injunction in. Hopefully he can play starting by the end of the week. And then they'll set a later court date to determine his real eligibility, which will never even be a factor. It'll be after the season. So I don't know if that's going to happen. That's kind of the speculation, but that's the news right now. I think Tyon Grant-Foster should be eligible, especially with the way that they've been handing out extra years of eligibility all over. You think about the hardship he's gone through. I'm not just giving out pity years, but it'll be interesting. Gonzaga has wings. They have scorers they can go to. They have a good team. But Tyon Grant-Foster heavily elevates their ceiling. Heavily elevates their ceiling. So we will see what happens. The other piece of news and notes, we got to go over scrimmages. This weekend in college basketball, if you go on social media really afterwards, this is the first weekend it felt like college basketball was back. It wasn't like you turn on ESPN, you get to watch games on Saturday, but the scrimmages were everywhere. Games are being played, they're being televised, they're being streamed, they're being talked about. Scores and box scores are being posted. I'm going to go over the major games real fast and the major takeaways from players. One thing I do want to say, these are scrimmages. They're exhibition games. Teams are not running all their sets. They're not running all their rotations. They're testing things out. They're experimenting. Some guys aren't playing full games or not at all in some games because of some injuries or whatever situations they have going on. So needless to say, take everything with a grain of salt. But we got to talk about some of these games, obviously. So scrimmage standouts, we'll call it scrimmage standouts from the around the country in college basketball this weekend. I'll kind of rattle them off. Arizona over St. Mary's, Nebraska over BYU. Rank Moss, by the way, was awesome. He looked absolutely brilliant off of an injury from last year. He was shooting all over the place. He had 31 against BYU. He looked great. AJ Dybantsa, I thought looked good. He was a little, I don't know how to say this, a little forceful at times, but I think AJ overall was good getting to the free throw line. He looked confident. He looked smooth. He probably will be BYU's best player, but nonetheless, Nebraska gets the win. St. John's beats Towson, but Towson did hang in that game for a very long time. They're going to be a good team in the CAA. Oklahoma State over Auburn, that was one of the big ones that people watched. Oklahoma State did not have their full lineup, and we will talk about them in the Big 12 episode today, obviously. But Anthony Roy looked awesome. He had like 28 points. He looked super smooth coming over from Green Bay. He was the leading scorer in the NCAA last year. So he's going to do it hopefully on the Big 12 level again. Cincy over Michigan, which was very interesting. This game was kind of messy, a little sloppy, but my big takeaway was Sean Abayev, freshman going to Cincy. He looked unbelievable. He looks the part of a true one and done, which would be awesome for them. UCLA over San Diego State. The UCLA guards were everything to them. Not just Donovan Dent, but Donovan Dent, Sky Clark, Trent Perry, Jamar Brown. Like, they have got a really, really, really good backcourt. The Bruins. Alabama beat Florida State. I thought LeBaron Philon, he could use some polish and fine tweaking, but all I know is that I love seeing LeBaron Philon be the alpha for Alabama that they need. Like, they lose Mark Sears last year. They need him to be the dude 100%, and he looked comfortable being that dude, even if some decision-making and turnovers were kind of shaky. Like, that's okay to do this in October, because when we get to November and December and on, like, you've already kind of worked those kinks out. So I thought LeBaron looked good. Murray State over Xavier. Hello. Okay. Murray State I'm high on. I like them in the MVC. The MVC is really top-heavy with the top 5 teams, but listen, I'm all eyes on the Racers this year. I think they're going to be awesome and contend in that conference. Ole Miss over Houston. West Virginia beat the poopy out of Maryland. Illinois beat Illinois State really bad. They didn't have 2 of their best players, Illinois State, but David Mirkovic, the big takeaway for Illinois, looked absolutely unbelievable, a damn near triple-double. Dayton beat Penn State pretty dang handily by the looks of it. Creighton beat Iowa State pretty handily. Washington over UNLV. Hannes Steinbach and JJ Mandequit, the freshmen for Washington, were unbelievable. Hannes had a crazy double-double. JJ Mandequit had like 11 or 12 assists in that game. And then a couple extra players, takeaways. Gabe Dines at USC, the big man from Youngstown State. I think he had like 7 blocks. He's like 7'4". He looked really good. They're able to kind of really elevate their defense with him and Jacob Kofi playing together for USC. And then Cade Tyson from Minnesota looked like Belmont Cade Tyson. Like, he looked like pre-North Carolina Cade Tyson, which is what you want to see. So that would be awesome if Minnesota and Nico Medved kind of got him. So that wasn't all the scrimmages. That was me just rattling off my biggest takeaways, the biggest ones and results to look out for, the biggest player takeaways. Scrimmages are going to keep going this week in exhibition games, and we are going to have real college basketball games back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks and change, 15, 16 days. So it's exciting to see the scrimmages. Again, grain of salt, but I think the player takeaways are far more important than the team takeaways in terms of scrimmages, because you want to see guys in new roles look comfortable. You want to see guys that are freshmen, that are on new teams. Like, you want to see them look good early so you can have confidence going into the year. So, okay, on to the home court advantage of the week presented by Home Field. We are doing a home field advantage. We're going to football again this week. We're going out to Provo, Utah, baby, to the Holy War. If you don't know what the Holy War is, BYU and Utah in football, their rivalry is called the Holy War. BYU hosting number 15 in the country. Utah was number 23 in the country going into this game. All I got to say is the BYU fans are special. Like, they're special. Everything about what goes on at BYU sporting events is unbelievable. Not only are the fans insane, they were there 2 hours before kickoff, loading in, filling up the arena and the student section. They were buzzing the entire time. When Utah's trying to kick a field goal or an extra point, like, you can see it on the camera, even that high camera angle from behind the field goal. The fans are going absolutely crazy, waving stuff all over the place. Like, it's insane. On top of that, the mountains in the background are one of a kind at BYU. As the sun was setting, like, there's not a more beautiful sight, maybe in college sports, especially in college football. It looked absolutely amazing. They do, the Cougar does the Viking chant, like the kind of like Iceland does in soccer, the Viking skull chant. It was awesome. When Bear, their quarterback, when Bear scored their last touchdown and he barreled his way into the end zone, the stadium pop was absolutely insane. I can't imagine the stadium pulse meter if we would have had one for when Utah took the field next, but absolutely unbelievable out in Provo. I need to go to a basketball game at the Marriott Center this year. I absolutely have to. I'm going to make it happen because I got to see this stuff live. So shout out to BYU. You guys get the home court advantage of the week presented by Home Field. Okay, let's get on with the goods of the episode. The Big 12 conference preview. I lied to you. Well, I didn't intentionally lie. Adam is not joining us. We had some technical difficulties. He is at a charity event in Virginia tonight. He went straight from MetLife Stadium from the Jet game, so God bless his soul for even showing up at the Jet game, even though it was nice outside. Nonetheless, let's get on with the Big 12 preview. I'm going to start with kind of general thoughts on the league. We'll get into power rankings, talk about every single team, and then I will get into the player awards and everything. This is going to be a big year for the Big 12. I think when you look back in college basketball in the last decade, the Big 12 has been the best league in the entire country for majority, if not all of the last decade plus, outside of, I guess, last year with how good the SEC was, obviously. But I think this year the Big 12 gets back to prominence, and especially when you look at the top end of the conference, the top like third to top half of the league, right? Like when you look at the AP top 10, they have 3 teams in the top 10. They're the only conference with that. They have Houston at 2, they have BYU at 8, and they have Texas Tech at 10. Arizona's at 13. Iowa State's at 16, and Kansas is at 19. So that's 6 teams in the top 19, which is absolutely elite. So the conference kind of rolls with those 6. My hot take for the Big 12 this year is that obviously they have 3 teams in the top 10 right now already in the beginning of the season, but they're going to have 5 of those 6 teams, if not maybe even all 6, crack the top 10 at some point. So obviously Houston's already there. Texas Tech and BYU are already there, but that would mean that between Arizona, Iowa State, and Kansas, 2 of them crack the top 10 at some point in the year. I think that top 6 is that good. The upside is there for all of them to push into like 2 and 3 seed territory later in the season, which would obviously be a top 10 team in the country. So I'm excited. I think there is value, and there are good quality teams that are good dark horses in the middle of the league. Don't rate the bottom of the league that much, but nonetheless, the top half of the league kind of runs the quality in the Big 12 this year. I think it's going to be an awesome year, and Big 12 basketball rocks. It's one of the best, if not the best, form of two-way basketball in college basketball because of how high the quality is and the players, its power conferences, but also just the different kind of coaches you get and how stylistic these teams in the Big 12 geographic landscape have been. Let's get on with power rankings. No surprise, I got Houston number 1. They're for sure the best team in the Big 12 to start the year. And honestly, like when we do conference previews in every conference, you say like, oh, Purdue's number 1, but maybe Michigan could kind of jump up a little bit, and Duke's number 1 here, right? But maybe NC State or North Carolina or Louisville could jump up ahead of them. Like Houston in the Big 12 is the one that I can most confidently say like they're the best team in the conference, and they're going to stick as the best team in the conference. Like people don't realize how good they were last year. First of all, national championship game, obviously. They lost a crunch time heartbreaker where they tried to get a shot off in the end versus Florida, but the best Final Four in college basketball history last year, Houston was in the national championship game. This feels like the prime year for Houston to go win a national title if there ever was one, right? Like you have a redemption story. You have key returners from that team and some of your best players. You have great additions. You have the system. You have the best coach in the country. You have the best defense in the country. You have the best culture in the country, maybe. Like Houston is bred to win like this. And I think people don't really fully like appreciate how good they were. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to pull up the standings from last year too, that Houston won the Big 12 last year by like 4 games or something like that, which is absolutely 4 games. They went 19-1 in conference. Texas Tech was 15-5 at second. Like 19-1 in the Big 12 any year is absolutely ridiculous. So even if you don't believe in the talent that they have this year that much, you have to believe in what Kelvin Sampson does in the system. That being said, the talent is going to be damn good. They returned Milos Uzon, JoJo Tugler, and Emmanuel Sharp are the big 3. Mercy Miller and Ramon Walker are really good depth pieces that one of them might have to step up more and will have the chance to at least. I want to go back to Milos Uzon though, because he's going to be their lead guard and their number 1. And there are people that doubt him. To the doubters out there for Milos Uzon, I say look at the past in Kelvin Sampson's development of internal guards. Last year, LJ Cryer took a leap and he was their number 1 option. 2 years ago, Jamal Shed took a leap and he was their number 1 option. He was great. 3 years ago, Marcus Sasser had a breakout, became their number 1 option. Quentin Grimes, before that, had a late leap to had a breakout, became the number 1 option. They went to the Final Four that year as a 2 seed in 2021. Like, the best guard on Houston always comes from internal development, a transfer in his second or maybe even third year, or a freshman in his second or third year. Like, it comes from guys that they build from within. And Milos Uzan was there last year. He was great. He had LJ Cryer to play with, obviously, and Emmanuel Sharp in the backcourt. Now it's Milos as the primary playmaker and the engine of the offense. So have faith in Milos. He's a great player. He was great at OU beforehand. He is going to be the number one. Emmanuel Sharp, love him. He's experienced. He's tough as nails. He's a great shooter. He's got his own redemption arc too, obviously from that last play against Florida in the national championship game. And JoJo Tugler, I will go out there and say he's the best defender in the country by a country mile. By a landslide, JoJo Tugler is the best defender in the country. Obviously, he plays for Houston, so he's kind of been developed and built in this system, but he's going to reap every benefit and award possible. He can score 4 points a game or 5 points a game, whatever he averaged last year. He's still going to be the best defender in the country and be potentially an All-American because of it. Then you go to the additions, right? So we have 5 returners. 3 of them will definitely be starters. It's really the freshman. Chris Senac, absolute monster. Absolute monster at the 5 spot. He's an unbelievably high upside athletic defender that has high energy. And him and JoJo Tugler, easily the best defensive front court in the entire country. Kingston Flemings, I love. I think he's super underrated. One of the most underrated freshmen in the country. He breathes and oozes what a Houston point guard is, right? Like, he's got good size. He's strong. He's athletic. He can play make and be that one guard in pick and roll sets. And he's an unbelievable defender. He does everything that Kelvin Sampson wants in a guard, and it wouldn't surprise me if next year or 2 years down the line that he ends up being their number one option after Milos Uzan is gone and Emmanuel Sharp and beyond that, if he ends up staying and whatever happens. But love him. Isaiah Harwell, another freshman coming in, absolute sniper, elite 3-and-D player, great for the Houston system. So they're not super deep, to be completely honest. They have another transfer coming in, Khalifa Sacco at the 5 spot, but I don't think that depth is ever a concern for them. Like, they have had depth issues in the past with injuries like the Jamal Shed year and the Juwan Roberts injuries in the past, but have faith in the Kelvin Sampson system. They were awesome last year. They have 3 key starters returning that are going to be their 3 best players. And realistically, maybe the freshmen kind of jump up, but 3 elite freshmen, 2 additional returners for depth. Like, that's enough for Houston to win a national championship. It's that simple. My number 2 team in the conference is Texas Tech. I have been higher on Texas Tech for this year than anybody I've seen out there on the internet. Like, I've seen people like them, but for the most part, I think consensus has them where the AP poll does. AP poll has them at number 10. I see people having them outside the top 10, outside the top 15. They're kind of like, oh yeah, they're good. They could be really good. Like, no. Scratch all that. Texas Tech is, to me, a national title contender, certified national title contender. They go to the Elite 8 last year. They have a great system. They return arguably Darryn Williams, also 2 of their 3 best players, we'll say, right? JT Toppin, obviously, who didn't win anything, but he was named preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. He's the favorite to win Big 12 Player of the Year this year for obvious reasons. He got a bag to come back, go try win a national championship. I love that. Christian Anderson, big time breakout coming this year. Awesome freshman last season. Great freshman campaign. Was better as the year got on. He was great for Germany at the FIBA U19s this summer, playing with Hannes Steinbach. Like, JT Toppin and Christian Anderson could be the best duo in the country this year over Braden Smith and TKR. They could be better than them. I would say on paper going into the season, they're the second best duo in the country. But the fact that you're not going to find another duo that can get it on their own in isolation and play with other guys and both be the number one option, I think is a huge piece of that. Where, like, TKR is not going to have the ball in his hands for Purdue, obviously, like dribble drive and do all these things. But Christian Anderson can be the lead player on a really good team. JT Toppin did it last year. He can obviously be the lead player on a really good team. So absolutely love that duo. I think it's amazing. Then you go to the trio of snipers that they're bringing in. And these are the 3 guys that are going to make or break their season. Donovan Atwell, Tyree Bryan, and Lawan Watts. Lawan Watts is the guy that's going to be their 3rd best player on this team, without a doubt. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire country. Coming over from Wazoo, he's big, he's strong, he's a good defender, he's high energy, he's a good cutter, he's a good shooter, he's a good playmaker. Like, he's super versatile. I think he's going to fill the Darryn Williams role that got filled, that they needed to fill, obviously, from him leaving to NC State. But a guy who can be the certified number 3 on this team and be the X factor for them winning a national championship. Like that, he's a difference maker for me. I think Tyree Bryan and Donovan Atwell are good shooters. They're good guards and wings, but Lawan Watts is the dude. I think those 5 are the starters. Christian Anderson, JT, Lawan, Tyree Bryan, Donovan Atwell. But Lawan Watts is going to be the third best player. I love him. I think he's an all-conference player. I think he's unbelievably underrated. They do have other guys. Luke Bangboye, on paper, you see, I think he only averaged like 3 points a game or something like that last year. Over 2 blocks a game. Absolute monster in the paint, and that's what they really needed. Like, on paper, I was worried coming in to even like last week until I studied the tape from my boy Luke Bangboye, elite shot blocker. Exactly what they need. They don't need a 5 to be this star player, score 10 to 15 points a game. Like, they need a guy for boards. They need a guy for shot blocking to help with their size, because it's not going to be great because they don't have a lot of depth behind Luke and JT, because JT is going to play a lot of 5, and then Lawan Watts will play a lot of 4. That being said, this is how Texas Tech plays. They play up, they play tough, they defend hard, they crunch you down defensively, and then they run the floor offensively, which I love. They have the team to do that. They have the guard play. They have a small ball lineup. They have shooters. Like, they're going to be menacing defensively like always. They're going to have really good schemes. Grant McCaslin's one of the best coaches in the entire country. Like, it's similar to Iowa State and how Iowa State play, where they play so hard defensively, but if they can go and get out in transition, they will do that. And Texas Tech even more so. So this is a team that was awesome last year. They went to the Elite Eight. I think they should be a Final Four and national title contender for sure this year. Number 3, I got BYU on the hype train. I do know that there are doubters out there. I saw someone compare BYU to Rutgers for last year. That's diabolical. Do not do that to BYU. They are amazing. They're going to be great this year. Number 8 in the AP poll. I have them at number 3 in the Big 12 going into the season. Last year, 6 seed, Sweet 16 in Kevin Young's first year coming over from the NBA as a collegiate head coach at all. That's a good season. They had a good team, not a great team, but they build off of that. Richie Saunders was obviously their best player. I think it was first team all Big 12 last year. He's returning. Keba Keita, absolute monster. He's returning. They also have a couple of role players beyond that. Then we get to the lovely, lovely additions for BYU, which is just like the fact that these guys are playing at BYU and they could be the best BYU team in school history says a lot about the current landscape of college basketball and kind of what schools are figuring it out. And BYU is absolutely figuring it out. AJ Dybantsa, number 1 player in the country, argue with a wall. Maybe he's number 2. Him, Darryn Peterson, Cam Boozer, whatever. Like, Nate Ament's not number 1. Like, it's one of those 3 guys. But AJ Dybantsa, one of the best wing scoring prospects, and really just scoring prospects in general, in years, or like in decades even. Like, he's awesome. He's polished. He's ready to go to the NBA after this year already. He's a gamer. He's competitive. Like, he gets active defensively. I think there are moments that I even watch in their scrimmage from this past week that I didn't love, obviously, against Nebraska. He kind of lapses in judgment at times, but those are things that you fine tune, and I see enough of him to be confident in terms of mental focus to be fine. Nonetheless, AJ Dybantsa, one of the best wing scorers you're going to find in college basketball ever, especially as a one and done. Rob Wright, one of the best playmakers in the country, in my opinion. I think he's going to have a great year playing with Richie and AJ on the wings as a point guard. Could you imagine how easy life is when you do that? Like, not only that, he was great last year for Baylor, especially down the stretch. He ended up scoring a lot more. He was this big spark plug that Baylor really needed. Like, that is elite offense. When you look at that trio, Rob Wright the third at the point guard, Richie Saunders at the 2, AJ Dybantsa at the 3. Like, that's probably the best trio in the country, especially in terms of offensive talent. Like, absolutely unbelievable. They also bring in Kennard Davis from SIU. He was second team MVC, absolute sniper. They got Nate Pickens, another shooter from UC Riverside, and Tyler Maroose from Idaho, another shooter. So you look at who they've kind of brought in around that trio, and obviously kept a couple guys like Keba Keita. Like, it's just absolute shooters. Last year, they were 9th in the country in offensive efficiency. Like, why can't they be number 1 this year? There's no reason that they can't, because they have the pieces to do it. They have elite offensive talent. They have shooters. They have depth of shooters and guards. And Kevin Young is awesome. Like, he has brought in an NBA regimen with NBA staff all over the place in the BYU basketball program and in their facility, not just on their coaching staff, but within their strength work and nutritional work. Like, everything is geared towards how NBA succeeds to bring it to the college level. And you're not going to find that really anywhere else in all of college basketball. So it's a rarity. Their offense is going to be amazing. Can they win the national championship this year? I have doubts. I won't even lie. Like, I have doubts that I could see them as that title contender. I don't think defensively they'll be there, but absolutely could be a Final Four team that we look at later in the year in March, and we're like, damn, like, can they win the national title this week? I don't know, because they are easily a final quality of a Final Four team. So BYU is going to be absolutely awesome this year. After the top three, it gets tricky. Like Iowa State, Kansas, and Arizona are the three for me, obviously right there. Like that's what it's pretty consensus of that sense. I think that you could go any order of them, to be completely honest. And like even if you put one of them ahead of BYU, like these three teams could all be top 10 in the country at some point in the year. My number 4 in the conference is Iowa State because of how high the floor is, right? Like TJ Otzelberger and the system, coaching systems that work, they will always work. And TJ Otzelberger has figured that out. I went to Iowa State last year. Like I love everything that they have in terms of culture building within their facilities. I think it's real. Their roster isn't as good as last year, so they won't be that dark horse number 1 team in the country like they were last year with the guard play, but they are going to be good. I said the floor is high because of the defensive system. The trio of starters coming back. Josh Jefferson, one of the most versatile players in the country, doesn't get enough love at all. I think he's a dark horse actually for Big 12 Player of the Year. Tamin Lipsey, that's Ames right there. That's Ames through and through, Iowa State through and through. Like he's not going to be going anywhere else. Awesome defender, great playmaker, great vet and culture piece to keep around. And Milan Momcilovic, who battled some injury last year, but smooth scoring wing. I love that trio. I think it's really good. I don't think offensively they're going to be as good as last year because they don't have the Curtis Jones and the Keyshawn Gilbert. Like those two guys were like all-American level players last year. Like they weren't, you had not having those guys, and because I don't see it on the roster, I'll just say that straight up. Like I think some of the guys they brought in are fine. I think Nate Heisey, like maybe a little breakout, but they're not going to have a Keyshawn Gilbert and a Curtis Jones. That being said, the defense is going to be great. I think they have good size. They have good versatility with those three guys as the leaders. The defense and the system offers a really high floor, so I like Iowa State this year. I just don't know what their ceiling really is going to be. Number 5, I have Kansas, and I think they might be underrated. Even if I'm putting them at 5, like part of me wanted to consider them up at 3 or 4. Like I don't think they're getting enough love at all. Something interesting that I found out. Last year was the only time in the history of the Big 12, since it was formed in 1994, that Kansas finished outside the top 5. They were 6th in the conference last year, and they had a down year by their own standard. Like, this is Kansas. This year, on paper, I think that people underrate them because they're unsure a little bit, but I don't think that should be the case at all because they have guys that have proven themselves, and they have guys you should have faith in. Darryn Peterson is going to be their best player, and I think that Darryn Peterson might win Big 12 Player of the Year. I think that Darryn Peterson could win National Player of the Year. Like, he's that good. Very, very similar to a Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State type year where the supporting cast that Darryn will have is better than what Cade had at OK State. But Cade carried them to a 4 seed by putting up like 20 points a game, damn near triple-double every night. Like, Darryn Peterson, big, all-around, do-it-all guard. Like, he's going to do everything, and he can do everything, and he's a gamer. Like, I love Darryn Peterson. I think having him as your lead option they're going to win games strictly because of him. Flory Badunga is going to go off this year. Like, straight up. Easy to say. One of the better bigs in the country this year. Elite rim runner. Great shot blocker. High energy. Played behind Hunter Dickinson last year. Like, he's going to have his breakout this year. Absolutely. They're going to be a great inside-out duo. The experience that they're bringing in is why I like Kansas so much. I love Darryn. I love Flory. Melvin Council, absolutely awesome. He reminds me of DeJounte Murray, of like a lankier guard who's really smooth in the mid-range, gets downhill really well, long arms, good defender. Love that they have a guy like that playing with Darryn in the backcourt. Jaden Dawson, absolute sniper. He shot like 7.5 threes a game last year at like, I think it was like 35% rate. Like, anybody who can take that many threes on a decent team and their coach allows them to, like, that says a lot. That says a lot about the player that they are. And he's also another guy, like I said, the experience pieces that they're bringing in to surround Darryn. So Darryn Peterson, Jaden Dawson, Melvin Council. Elmarko Jackson, who missed the entire season last year, but was decent enough before that in a 5-star 2 years ago. That's experience. Like, that's continuity and returning experience. He knows the Kansas program. He knows everything about the staff, the system. Like, he's ready to play. It's another guard that they have that's going to be good. Cole Rosario. If you haven't heard about Cole Rosario, they call him Steve Rogers, Elmarko said to the media at one point. They call him Steve Rogers. If you're not a Marvel fan, that's Captain America. So they're calling Cole Rosario Captain America because he never turns off. He never stops. He is ridiculously high energy. He's like built like Captain America. The brother is absolutely ripped. He's strong. He plays intensely. Another guard that's going to help them out a lot for depth. They got Paul Mbia coming in from Congo to help in the front court, originally was the NC State commit, but now I don't know how he got rerouted, but a lot of the international recruits are all over the place. But now he's headed to Kansas to back up Flory. I like that team, right? So if you have Darryn at the 1, you have Melvin Council playing with him in the backcourt, and then some mix of Jaden Dawson, Elmarco Jackson, and Cole Rosario, who is basically their version of Christian Brown. That's what Bill Self's already compared him to. And it's funny because before I saw he said that, I was like, man, maybe he'll be like their Christian Brown this year, which obviously be amazing. But Darryn Peterson, Melvin Council, and then Jaden Dawson, Elmarco Jackson, Cole Rosario in some capacity. And then you have Flory, Paul Mbia, and you throw in a couple of depth pieces. It's a good team, and if Darryn Peterson is going to be the level of Cade Cunningham, I actually anticipate him to, that is a team that could be a dark horse Final Four team and could be a 2 or 3 seed if things go well. I think Kansas is getting overlooked a little bit. I understand they're not super deep. Bill Self has, I don't want to say lost his touch. He's lost a little bit of the coaching touch and the schematic stuff and kind of adjusting and whatnot for different types of opponents and mid-game adjustments. But I understand why people are sleeping on them a little bit. I just feel like maybe this is the year that Kansas just is much better than people expect. So that leaves number 6, Arizona for me. Again, they could be top 2 to 3 in the Big 12. I just think they rely a lot on the freshmen that I am trying to pinpoint on how good they're going to be and how good Jaden Bradley is going to be and who's going to be their alpha and etc. I like Arizona. I like Tommy Lloyd. They have had a clear ceiling, I will say, that they have been unable to win in the postseason in March. So that's kind of why I dial back my expectations on Arizona a little bit on top of the freshman expectations. But they are going to be good. Jaden Bradley, it's a voice crack. That was bad. Jaden Bradley, likely going to be their best player. He was in their scrimmage against St. Mary's. Early in the season, he'll probably be their number 1 at least, but later in the year, as the freshmen get better, it could be one of them. Nonetheless, Jaden Bradley at the 1, Anthony Delorso is returning on the wing, and Toby Awaka returning at the 5 spot. Big Montias Krivas also returning. He should have a pretty big breakout this year. I think he's going to end up being their best big man and best front court player for sure. And then their freshmen. They got 3 freshmen coming in. Koa Pete, Braden Burries, and the 3 elite freshmen coming in. Koa Pete, Braden Burries, and I'm drawing a blank. Dwayne Aristode. I'm thinking here. Those 3 are going to be awesome. Dwayne Aristode, I think, is super, super underrated. Elite 3-and-D player, big, strong, built like a linebacker already. He's going to take over the Carter Bryant role to me, where he'll have his games offensively where he's hitting threes and he's your X factor. But even if he's not playing great offensively or shooting the ball well, he'll be a good connecting piece. He'll be a great defender. He's an unbelievable defender. Elite defender in the country. All defense in the United States college basketball this year. He's that good, Dwayne Aristode, defensively. So I love him. I think he's one of the most underrated freshmen in the entire country. And then Koa Pete and Braden Burries. If you told me that these 2 ended up being Arizona's best players, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Braden Burries is awesome to me. A true big playmaking guard that can do it all, score on all 3 levels. Him and Jaden Bradley will be a great 1-2 punch in the backcourt. And then Koa Pete, this demon athlete, high upside player, kind of reminds me of Dylan Mitchell a little bit coming out of high school at least, where Dylan Mitchell's shot has just not come along. Where Koa, and you're kind of saying, hey, he's uber athletic, high energy, he's smart, he's strong, he plays intensely. Can the upside get there with the shooting and the offensive end, and the polish? Where we said the same thing with Dylan Mitchell. Dylan Mitchell's a great player, but the offensive capability of spacing and shooting hasn't been there for Dylan. Can it be there for Koa? Absolutely, but we'll see. A lot to love. That being said, they have international recruits and a couple of other freshmen like Bryce James coming in. I don't love a lot of the depth. I just am unsure. It just comes down to me with Arizona for the freshmen. If I think Krivas is going to be their best big. I'm pretty confident on that. I think his breakout is important, but I think the freshmen are the most important thing in this team for sure. Braden Burries being a dynamic, whether that's a number 1 or number 2 option with Jaden Bradley, is going to be huge because they can't just run through Jaden Bradley alone. Look at the past years with Caleb Love and KJ Lewis and Jaden Bradley. They've always had plethora of offensive options when Arizona's at their best. So they're going to need that this year with Braden Burries for sure. Then on to 7 and on in the conference. This is where it gets tricky. I see a mix of teams that could go here. I will go with Baylor pretty comfortably, although This feels a little bit like a down year for Baylor on paper. They have 0% returning from last year's team, and that's kind of just the nature of the sport and how it is right now. And I think Scott Drew did a good job recruiting guys in the portal, and I think putting together a team with the freshmen, but there is reason for doubt for Baylor this year. Obviously, weren't great last year by the Baylor standards, but even in the last few years, like they win the national championship in 2021. Then they end up a 1 seed after that, and then a 3 seed, a 3 seed, and a 9 seed in the last 4 years after the national championship. But all 4 of those years, they've lost in the round of 32. Like they lose in the round of 32 every single year at this point, and they play through the same kind of style. Their defensive scheme hasn't been the same since it was in 2021, even though I know they don't have the same defensive playmakers like they had on that demon team in 2020 and 2021. But like I talked about Bill Self losing his touch before a little bit. Like Scott Drew feels like he's lost his touch a tiny bit, especially on the defensive end, because that's where the reason that they've lost so many games and not been able to kind of elevate their ceiling in the last few years. Nonetheless, I do like the team a little bit. I love Tunde Yusufu. He's the next great Baylor guard. Keontae George, Jacoby Walter, VJ Edgecombe, lottery pick. Tunde Yusufu is probably going to do the same thing. I think he's going to be their best player, the number one option, elite scorer, all Big 12 player. That's what Scott Drew's been doing in the last few years. He gets an elite freshman guard. He turns them into takes their scoring talent, builds them with a little bit of culture and development in 1 year that they're there and one and done, then they end up being a lottery pick. Like he recruits the right guys to do it. But love Tunde Yusufu. Obi Agbim from Wyoming. I like him. I think he was good. I think there's a little bit of pop to him that might be more than people expect. JJ White, Isaac Williams from Corpus Christi is also going to be, they're going to be the playmakers, all those guys. Dan Skillings, Michael Rataj, and Justin Bodo and Cam Carr coming in kind of on the wing and in the front court. I think Dan Skillings, him being like a legit top tier option will be big for them. I just look at the team and it just feels like similarly guard heavy to the teams in recent years where I don't know about the bigs very much. And I just don't feel confident enough defensively that this team is going to be able to like be leaps and bounds better than they have been in the last few years. So for that reason, I have Baylor down at 7. But like I said, they have really good playmakers between Obi, JJ, Isaac Williams. Dan Skillings can play make a little bit in the front court. Michael Rataj playing in the Big 12. We'll see how that goes. And then I think Tunde is going to be a big piece of that, obviously, too. So 8, 9, 10, 11 was really tough for me. I was between Cincy, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. West Virginia, I'll put at the bottom of that group because I like Ross Hodge. I like what he's done at UNT before coming here. I don't think the roster is great. Like Trayson Eaglestaff from North Dakota and Hunter Huff from Chattanooga, like 2 of the best shooters in the country, and they're going to be awesome. They're going to light it up at times. But I look at the West Virginia team, and I'm like, on paper, like on the roster, their team is not good enough to compete at the top of the Big 12, where I look at the other teams, Cincy, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State, and I could see that a little more. Cincy, I put at 8. Michigan scrimmage, they look good. It was kind of like I don't know how to explain it. A little bit of messy, a little bit of a reckless game against Michigan in that scrimmage, but it was good for them. Like you take everything with a grain of salt in secret scrimmages, but they did win the game. Sean Abayev is much better than I anticipated. Straight up. Like I knew about him obviously coming from OTE. He is going to be a one and done. He looks like a one and done in one game. You can say that. I don't know if it's going to be that simple. Obviously, you have a whole long season to play, but Sean Abayev, NBA scouts love him. He looks comfortable. He looks smooth scoring the ball. Like he is everything that he has been advertised as from OT and then some. I have been underrating him very, very, very much. Bob Miller, I think, is an interesting piece. He has been all over the place, but I love his versatility. FSU, FAU, like he's this Swiss Army knife utility forward that kind of like the Jeremy Sohans of the world, and like he was at Baylor beforehand. And I like Bob Miller. I just don't think he's this prolific player. They have good depth, Cincy. They'll have a really good defense. They were 22nd in the country last year. KenPom has them projected at 5th best defense in the country this year. I don't know if they'll be 5th best, but I know Wes Miller knows how to coach up a defense at least. I still have questions about the offense. Can Sean Abayev completely carry the team on his back in the Big 12 to be a good NCAA tournament team? I don't know. That being said, that's their goal this year since he is for the NCAA tournament. And if Wes Miller doesn't go to the NCAA tournament, he could be having some dangerous conversations with his upper management at the University of Cincinnati. So, and then after Cincy at, I guess that's 9 and 10, right? Because that's 6, 7. Nope, don't say that. 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 9 and 10. I have Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Kansas State's got to be the weirdest team in the country to me. Like, it's a like. I don't want to call them ragtag type of dudes, and the roster is so weird. PJ Haggerty comes to K-State late in the portal process, looking for a big bag of money, and not many other places could have given that. Nonetheless, he was an All-American last year. He's a great scorer. He's a great player. Abdi Bashir, my boy from Monmouth, awesome player, sniper, great shooter, great scorer, like PJ Haggerty in a way. Marcus Johnson from Bowling Green. If you haven't seen the clips of Marcus Johnson playing last year, he is good. He's a good player. He was like a really undersized big. People were talking about like DJ Burns about him, right? But like he was nowhere near as good as DJ Burns, at least in my opinion. He's a good player. He's big. He's husky. He's a really good playmaker though out of the 5 spot, and like he just looks like one of those dudes because of his size that traditionally you wouldn't expect him to be good, but he is very good. He can shoot it a little bit. He showed that against Michigan State last year, I remember. He's just like it's another reason why like it's a part of the ragtag, like odd on the surface type of team. They have Andre Kostic, international player coming in, and Nate Johnson from Akron, who was MAC Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year last year. So like to me, that team is not going to do massive damage in the Big 12 outside of a couple of one-off games. Like they have talent, they have guys that were really good all over the country, but none of them were at K-State last year. I don't think they mesh well together is the big reason why I'm kind of mentioning like they just kind of brought in whoever they could, Jerome Tang, and they're just going to try to figure it out from there. Defensively, they're not going to be good at all. I do not expect them to be good defensively at all. They will have shot makers, PJ Haggerty, Abdi, Marcus Johnson's fun to watch, Nate Johnson's good. It ain't always going to be pretty for K-State. So that's kind of what held me back from putting them even above like Cincy or Baylor, but I think putting them here at 9, I think that is respectable for them and Jerome Tang. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, at 10, I think I'm probably underrating, if anything. I like Steve Lutz a lot. He plays an interestingly really fast system. He did at Western Kentucky. They looked really good in their scrimmage against Auburn, and they didn't have 3 of their starters. They have a ton of scorers. They were terrible last year scoring the ball. They brought in scorers. Anthony Roy should probably be their best player this year. Led the NCAA in scoring last year at Green Bay. Really dynamic scorer. Looked great against Auburn. He had like 28 in that game. They haven't had a winning record at Oklahoma State since Cade Cunningham in 2021. Like, they should definitely have a winning record. I just don't know how good they're going to be. They play an interesting style, like I mentioned. I don't think defensively they'll be amazing, though, and I don't think their roster is like this prolific team. Could they be a dangerous tournament team or like a sneaky tournament team, I'll say? Sure, I could see that, but I have them at 10, or is it 11? Let's see. Houston at 1, Texas Tech at 2, BYU at 3, Iowa State at 4, Kansas at 5, Arizona at 6, Baylor 7, Cincy 8, Kansas State 9, Oklahoma State 10, West Virginia 11. And then on to the bottom of the conference, I have Colorado, Utah, TCU. I mixed that up. I have TCU at 12, and then Utah, then Colorado, then UCF, then Arizona State. There's a lot of hot seat coaches in the bottom is the biggest thing I've noticed. I'm not going to go too into depth about the teams for time's purposes right now. These are the teams I don't see much upside with in the Big 12 this year. I don't see any of these teams being tournament teams or being super dangerous. Maybe TCU could finish a little higher than this, but I don't see any of these teams being that astronomically great this year. I mentioned the hot seat. I mean, Bobby Hurley has got to be on his last legs at Arizona State, for being honest. UCF with Johnny Dawkins, probably looking for a move. Jamie Dixon at TCU, I don't know if they would move on and fire him after this year. Depends how bad it would be. Utah's got a new coach, and Tad Boyle has been at Colorado forever. So the bottom of the Big 12, I think there's a lot of soul searching to do with the coaches, and I think they're on their last legs there. They're on the hot seat. So we'll kind of see how they play out this year and if they keep their jobs, but I'd imagine that there's going to be at least 2 or 3, if not more, Big 12 jobs open at the end of the season, and hopefully they go for some new, younger, mid-major talent, and kind of like a lot of the other teams in this conference have done. West Virginia's done it time and time again. Kansas State brought in from Baylor internally with a guy that they knew was going to be good, but nonetheless, we should be getting some refreshed coaches in this conference. So my Big 12 power rankings, I know I just did it, but I'm going to go over it one more time. Big 12 power rankings. Houston at 1, Texas Tech at 2, BYU at 3, Iowa State at 4, Kansas at 5, Arizona at 6. Those top 6 are the clear top 6 to me. I think they all have potential to be top 10 teams in the country at some point in the season. 3 of them obviously are starting top 10, but I think the other 3 could crack that at some point also. These top 6 are going to carry the Big 12, and it's the best top 6 of any conference in the country, without a doubt, in my opinion. After that, Baylor at 7, who should be a tournament team. Cincy at 8, who is aiming to be a tournament team. Kansas State at 9, Oklahoma State at 10, who could be a dark horse. West Virginia at 11. What did I say? TCU at 12, Utah at 13, Colorado at 14, UCF at 15, and Arizona State at the bottom at 16. And then for all conference teams and player awards, I will start with the all conference teams. First team, JT Toppin, Darryn Peterson, Joshua Jefferson. Those were the 3 easy ones for me that should be the 3 premier contenders for Big 12 Player of the Year. I know people are waiting for the BYU names. I'll get there, but I think there's going to be more balance on BYU than people expect, obviously. JT Toppin, Darryn Peterson, Josh Jefferson. I have Milos Uzon and Christian Anderson first team from Houston and Texas Tech. I think those are going to be 2 of the better guards in the country. Milos Uzon is going to be running the Houston team. He'll be their lead player in a sense, and probably their best player along with Emmanuel Sharp and JoJo Tugler. And I think Christian Anderson is going to break out to be one of the best young dynamic guards in the country. Second team all-conference, PJ Haggerty. Say what you want about him in Kansas State. He was an All-American last year. Yep, he was an All-American last year. He scored over 20 points a game. Like, he's going to score tons and tons of buckets, especially at Kansas State for Jerome Tang. So PJ Haggerty on the second team. AJ Dybantsa and Richie Saunders on the second team from BYU. I could see AJ contending for Big 12 Player of the Year. Don't think Richie is going to contend for Big 12 Player of the Year because I think AJ's upside is so much higher, obviously. And AJ being great is what BYU needs to be great and to be a national title contender, a certified one. Nonetheless, have them both on Big 12 second team because I think they're going to split a little bit along with Rob Wright and Kennard Davis and a couple of other guys on their team. PJ Haggerty, AJ Dybantsa, Richie Saunders, JoJo Tugler, who I think is going to be the best defender in the country this year, and Taman Lipsey at Iowa State. Third team all-conference, I have Lawan Watts at Texas Tech, who I've talked about. I love him. Tunde Yusufu at Baylor. And then this is tough. And then basically for the last 3, I'm between Flory Badunga, Emmanuel Sharp, Rob Wright, and Jaden Bradley. I will go with Emmanuel Sharp for sure. I'll go Jaden Bradley because someone from Arizona is going to be on here. I do think that Braden Burries is a sneaky one to be on here. I love his game. Anthony Roy at Oklahoma State could be on here also. But I will go with Flory Badunga and Jaden Bradley, I said. So I guess I'll leave Rob Wright just off the list. But Rob Wright, basically a third-team all-conference player also, at least when we do 5 players per conference. So player awards, though, player of the year, I'm going with JT Toppin. But, man, I think Darryn Peterson might win it. I really think that Darryn Peterson is going to put up such ridiculous video game numbers this year. I mentioned about the Cade Cunningham comp in 2021 with Oklahoma State. Darryn Peterson is going to be awesome this year. Kansas is going to be good. They're not going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be a top 5 team in the country. That is yet to be seen, and that's unlikely. But they have upside to be a top 10 team in the country, and if they are, it's going to be behind him because he's that awesome. So I'll go JT Toppin Player of the Year. It's the easy, safe pick, and I love Texas Tech, so it's not a I don't have a problem with that at all. Defensive Player of the Year, JoJo Tugler. I've talked about him more than enough. Newcomer of the Year and Freshman of the Year, I'll go Darryn Peterson. I guess if I had to give Newcomer of the Year to a transfer, I'd go PJ Haggerty or Lawan Watts. Lawan Watts' impact is going to be better for his team than PJ Haggerty's will be for Kansas State. That sounds kind of crazy, but that actually does sound kind of crazy. Nonetheless, I think Lawan Watts is awesome. So PJ Haggerty or Lawan Watts behind Darryn Peterson for Newcomer of the Year. Darryn Peterson wins Freshman of the Year, although AJ Dybantsa could definitely win it. And then Coach of the Year, I'm going with Kelvin Sampson. I kind of tried to nitpick, if BYU finished top 2 or 3, Kevin Young maybe wins it, but I think Houston, like last year, they won the Big 12 by going 19-1, and they were 4 games ahead of second place. If they do something like that again, which I think they might, he's going to win it again. He's the best coach in the country, Kelvin Sampson. He deserves all the love and all the flowers he gets. I mentioned my bold prediction, or did I mention it? I think I mentioned my bold prediction earlier. 6 teams in the Big 12 get into the top 10 in the country at some point in the year. 3 of them are starting off. Houston, Texas Tech, BYU, but then Iowa State, Kansas, Arizona. I think at least 5 of them is really the bold take. 5 of the teams end up being top 10 at some point in the year, if not all 6. I love the top 6. Could we be seeing a national champion out of this group? I don't know. I think you definitely see at least one Final Four team from the Big 12. I know so much can change, and the brackets and whatever. The Big 12 is awesome. I love the style of the game it is too. I'm a massive Big 12 fan. Do not sleep on these teams this year. Houston, number 1 team in the country for me. Texas Tech is the top 5 team in the country for me. BYU is top 10. Iowa State, Kansas, and Arizona are all top 15 to 20. So Big 12 is going to be awesome this year. And we'll do one Q&A also, always. We won't forget that. Connor Fuchsa on Instagram asked, how big is the gap between AJ Dybantsa and Darryn Peterson and the other freshmen in the Big 12 like a Koa Pete, Braden Burries? Honestly, a great question because there are a pretty underratedly amount of good freshmen in this conference. I think it's a pretty big gap because like Darryn Peterson and AJ Dybantsa could be number 1 options for top 10 teams in the country. Although Braden Burries could be also in Koa Pete, but I have less confidence in it, and I don't think number 1 option is a balanced number 1 option where like AJ Dybantsa and Darryn Peterson could score 20 points a game this year for their teams, and they could be national title contenders. Like it's kind of different. And I just think the upside for those guys is just like astronomical. We're talking potential generational NBA draft prospects between those guys. Both these players, if you take one of them and put them in a random year, they probably go number 1 90% of the time for both of those players, along with maybe even Cam Boozer at Duke. But it's a big gap. Not to say that the Koa Pete, Braden Burries, Aristote, etc. group of the freshmen of the world aren't great. It's just to say that like Darryn Peterson and AJ are a different breed of freshmen where you don't see this very often at all, and that's why this draft class is being looked at so highly and why it's got generational potential that people were kind of talking about. So that is going to do it for this week's episode, the Big 12 Conference Preview. Genuinely appreciate y'all being here, especially the whole time if you're listening now. Again, means a lot to me, and it means a lot that you're still here and supporting the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow everywhere on social media. We are going to be doing SEC and Big East are the last 2 conference previews left to do. And then the college basketball season is going to be here before you know it. So soak it in, get a little fall festivities, hang out with your family before it's too late because November comes, college basketball is here. So appreciate y'all again. Hope you have a great week. Peace. Goodbye.